Channel. And if you're new here, welcome to First Love Yourself, where love, life, and Christ combine. I am so grateful to have you here on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment with me. In today's video, we're going to talk about taking an L. But before we get started, if you're new here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more uplifting, empowering content like this. So get comfortable because we are about to get into it. Let's go. Okay, so why do I want to talk about taking L's? Because life can sometimes kick your behind. I know I came out the gate strong, but listen, sometimes when you're going through life, you really just be feeling like, the attacks be coming, you be bobbing, waving, you start learning techniques and stuff, like you go underneath the wire like Rocky Bowinkle did and Creed. Like you just start the attacks just be coming. And so sometimes you just gotta be prepared for it. You gotta know how to take a loss, a lesson, gracefully. And so I had three things that came to mind when I thought of how I take these L's, take these lessons. Because for those of you that don't know, when I say taking an L, I mean taking a lesson, because you never lose anything. Everything that is taken away is replaced with something better, always. So here's three things to keep in mind. The first thing is to learn the lesson. This may look like you remembering your training. If you were single, you were healing, you were doing all the things, you were focusing on your mind, your body, and your soul, you're educating yourself, you're in church or you're being spiritual, you're meditating, you're feeding your mind with courses, and maybe you're reading audiobooks, and your body, you're eating healthy, or you're exercising, or you take the stairs instead of the elevators, whatever your thing is that you're switching up to try to better yourself. And so sometimes when we lose a lesson, when we take a L, when we get a lesson, we forget our training. We forget that, oh yeah, I've been through this before. I know how to navigate through this thing. We forget, oh yeah, this isn't the end of the world. We forget that, oh yeah, I'm going to be fine regardless of what's happening. I'm blessed coming and I'm blessed going. Sometimes we really forget our training. God has us through these lessons, these journeys in our life, and he always teaches us things about ourselves. He teaches us our weaknesses, our strengths. And when we stop working on our weaknesses, it allows the adversary to come in and attack you in that area. It allows things to happen that actually weaken you more in your weakest point. And, for those of you that study physics, an object is only as strong as its weakest point. And so for us as humans, I feel like that's the same thing. We are only as strong as our weakest point, which is why it's so important for us to focus in on our weakest points within ourselves, so that we can be stronger, so that we can be better, so that we can grow, we can learn, we can evolve in those areas and become the person that God created us to be. Sometimes it's really hard to see yourself grow when you are constantly harping on the things that you're doing wrong. For me in the past, I would have this insurmountable guilt that just would be pressing on me, and it would make me feel like, oh my gosh, I did so many things wrong. Oh my gosh, I made so many mistakes. Oh my gosh, and woe is me, right? Instead of, I'm weak in this area but I could be stronger. This is nothing. Like, yes, I did that. I own it. I acknowledge it. I repent it. I'm good. God forgave me, so now it's time for me to move forward and be better than I was yesterday. Sometimes we forget that God is so forgiving, that he has this grace that's extended to us whenever we wake up in the morning, and we feel like we got to be so hard on ourselves and really just hold ourselves to this this level that is just so high a standard that no person could ever meet it, that we forget that we're human beings. We forget that we are people who actually need to learn in order to become better. That's why I feel like God takes us through these levels of life so that he could teach us different things so we can be better than we were. God never intends for us to be perfect. He intends for us to be learning and growing and trying, like really, really making strides forward, walking on the straight and narrow path, doing the things that he set forth for us to do. That's what his intention was for us, not for us to just be like, oh, well, I'm bad at this, let me just never do it again. No, if that's your purpose, keep going. Everything that you're doing is training you for it. I had stuff that I was doing in life and I was like, okay, I'm going to this thing. I'm doing a vendor event. I used to do vendor events when I first became single, and I loved it so much. I would go and meet all of these independent, beautiful, strong women and men who wanted to just provide for their families and leave behind a legacy. And we would meet and we would talk about different things within our business, what our testimony or our story was behind why we created our businesses. And you could just see the light, like, turn on in people's eyes. And even the customers that I would have, they would be like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person. I'm not the only one who stayed too long. I'm not the only person who felt like they weren't worth being treated well. I'm not the only person who didn't love themselves and settled for what they thought was the best that the world had to offer when God had so much more for them. I'm not the only person who really struggled in this area. And I'm like, no, you're not alone. I was right there with you. God was right there with you. And you don't ever have to feel like because you made a mistake, because you did something wrong in the past, that you can't be better today. That's what I want every single woman, man to know, is to really truly love themselves and know that they deserve more. I don't ever want someone to settle just to be nothing to somebody. I want them to really matter in their life and to be with people who really do appreciate them for who they are. And so when I used to do that, it just was so fulfilling, because every time I would go, I would meet someone else that would teach me something that I would be helping someone, but they would be helping me. They say that when you're going different places to help people, when you're serving, those are the most special places that really do teach you the most in life, because you're thinking, oh, I'm helping this person, I'm feeding the needy, whatever. And then they teach you how to be more grateful for the life that you have. Everything in life is a lesson. And as my cousin says, Dory, he told me I had to quote him because I'm using his quote in this. He said, every lesson lived is a lesson gained. So unless the lesson takes you out, it's a lesson earned. I was like, straight bars. So I told him I was going to use it. So he said, just quote me. I said, okay, I got you. So the second thing is, remember to extend grace to yourself. Sometimes, if you're like me, you beat up on yourself so hard when you make a bad choice, when you do the wrong thing, when you have a misstep, a mistake, when you do something wrong in life, you just feel like it's the end of the world. You are really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made this choice. I can't believe I did this thing. And life is all about choices. It's always ever changing. You're never going to make the right choice every single time. Let me tell you that. So for the perfectionists out there that's like me, that feels like you just have to be perfect. You have to be on point all the time. You always got to do everything right. You can't never make a mistake. You can't do anything wrong. I promise you, everything that you're doing wrong is teaching you something so that you could become better. You have to learn how to extend yourself grace, because that grace is going to allow you to grow. If you harp on all of the things that you're doing wrong, you're not going to allow yourself to grow. You're not going to learn anything, because you're going to be too busy beating up on yourself that when God does send you a blessing, when he does send you a good man, you're going to push him away because you're going to feel like you don't deserve it because of guilt, because you forgot to extend yourself the same grace that God gave you. You forgot that you already repented for that. Like, if you already gave it to God and told him, hey, I messed up here. God, I messed up. Help me. God is going to say, okay, I got you. He's not going to be like, oh, no, you messed up too much. I just can't help you. He's going to say, here, my child. Oh my gosh. But no, seriously, like, in my head, that's how I imagine God doing, like, my child. Your sins are forgiven. And he just gives us so much grace. He loves us even when we do the most silliest, absurd things in life. God is just like, I created you. I knew you was gonna be like this, and I still accept you. I still love you. He literally, God is always waiting for you with open arms, ready to accept you for who you are. You don't ever have to feel like the mistakes that you made is too big for God, or the problem that you have is too small for God, because everything that matters to you matters to God. That's something that I always keep in the forefront of my mind as well. I'm always thinking, if I care about being with someone, and God told me I'm going to be with someone. If I'm crying, if I'm feeling lonely, if I'm going through this hard time, then God is going to send someone to help me in the season or however long. Whenever I'm struggling in an area and something really matters to me, God will make sure that He makes it work for your benefit, for my benefit. And sometimes we forget how good God is. We forget that He really got our back. Like we think, oh, I don't know why I got to go all the way around here just to get to here. I could just walk here to here. God's like, no, there's things that I'm going to show you on this journey around the lap around the course. Because around the course, you're going to see different things that you didn't see before. You're going to meet different people that you didn't even know you needed before. You're going to go into different seasons. You're going to learn a new step. You're going to learn how to walk a little faster, to move a little slower. With seasons, you need to slow down, speed up. With obstacles, you have to watch out for. All of the things are necessary to get you to the point where God needs you to be. And you can't just go there, because if He just gives it to you, you won't appreciate it. You have to really put in that work to get it. And sometimes we don't want to do it. We're like, oh, it's just too much. No, I don't want to do all of this. But I'll tell you something. It's kind of like if your parents give you a car. You know, this is not a specific story to me or anything, but it's like your parents give you a car and you don't put no money into it. You will not take care of that car the same way you will if you put in work. Like if you had to get that car through the mud, if you had to work 6 jobs, if you if you really had to put the money down for the car or whatever else, you treat your car, your house, whatever it is, so much better when it's yours. That's how it is when God holds off giving you a blessing that you asked for. Because if you just said, God, I want a husband, He gave you a husband prematurely, it would be a curse. It would be a disaster because you ain't ready. You know, you gotta do the prep work. You gotta really put in work, because faith without works is dead. You gotta really go through the journey so that you can be the woman who deserves a husband like that. And so does the guy. I'm not just only talking about women. And the third thing is always remember that you didn't lose anything and that God will replace it. It's not a loss, it's a replacement. They used to say this thing like, it's not rejection, it's redirection, or it's not rejection, it's God's protection. And those are cute sayings, and I love them because, you know, I hold on to those sometimes. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm going to need that right now. But really, anytime God removes a job, a man, anything from your life, it's because He's replacing it with something better. He has something else in store for you. And if you're not ready in this season, that person could have shown you things that you're struggling with that you thought you healed from, or things that you still need to work on. And I'm not saying it can't be that person or whoever else, but everything that God gives you is a gift. It's so that you can learn. And then if He removes a person from your life, it's because He's going to replace it with another person who's better in that season. If He removes a job from your life, it's because He has another position in the works that is coming up that's going to be like nothing you ever imagined. You could be thinking, oh, I got to travel. I got to do all of these things to get to work. I got to work on Sundays, and I love God. I want to be in church on Sundays. And God's like, don't take that job for the money, because if it's pulling you further away from me, don't do it. You don't take the job because you're like, okay, I'm going to have faith. And the next thing you know, next week, a job position opens at the job that you're at, because God was already working it out for your good. He knew that you needed the job. He knew that you needed to be off on Sundays for church. He knew the things that you would need for your sanity, for your peace, for the joy that you would get from being able to be close. Sometimes we don't understand why God is doing different things in our lives, but everything that happens for a reason. Everything does. It's all a strategic placement so that it can build you to a place where you're supposed to be. So I definitely don't want to be on here too long. I'm going to hop off, but I just want you to remember to take the L, take the lesson, and learn from it. No matter what you're going through in life, don't ever feel like you lost anything, because God replaces everything. I got the type of God that will spin the block. You know what I'm saying? And so there is nothing I could want for, or any of us could want for in our life. If you're a faithful believer, God is going to make sure that you're taken care of. always. So, thank you for watching. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.